Patriots Daily is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
So I feel like the Rams tree would be best for like a Drake Maye kind of skill set, where it's a lot of stuff over the middle of the field. Plus with their skill sets, obviously they're not like carbon copy or anything like that, but watching Drake Maye, what he can do with the arm slot, some of the play extension ability, I feel like it's kind of similar to a Matt Stafford kind of guy. So I'm curious. They could probably get, Patriots are looking at most likely Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels. So who would your top candidates be for the Patriots, outside of Robinson and Caley, if it's Drake Maye? And who would it be if it's Jayden Daniels?
So I'll start off by saying I am not sure that I'm going to have Maye as my QB2.
Okay.
Maye and Daniels are like, they're different, and I haven't decided yet, like, what do I care most about? Because, when it comes to Jayden, like, God, other than Caleb, nobody throws a 9 route like that. Plus, he's super mobile, and he's tough as nails. He's a great leader. He gets better every single year. You look back at the last 5 years, and, like, he's literally only gets better every year.
It's like that Hurts trajectory where it's like, it's
Yes. Not to mention he has a lot of experience. And not that Drake Maye doesn't have a lot of experience, but he has a lot of starting experience, right? And so I'm not 100% sure that Maye is my QB2. I might end up with Daniels there when all is said and done. And so if they happen, like, I don't really think there's a wrong answer there, but if they happen to get Daniels, for me, I would kind of want somebody from that McVay tree. Even though McVay doesn't prioritize outside zone as much as Kyle does, like Kyle's still at probably like 40-45% outside zone. McVay's really fluctuated in terms of like what his bread and butter is throughout the years, depending on who he has as quarterback. But I think like it's still there. It still exists. Like they still do, a bunch of 2-back runs, even though they don't have a fullback, but they still do a bunch of like the under center 2-back stuff, condensed formations, turn your back to the defense, bootlegs here and there. Again, not as much as Kyle, but it still exists. And I kind of feel like if you bring in, say, a Zach Robinson for a Jayden Daniels, I think that he could use his mobility, not in a 2012 RG3 running a bunch of RPOs, pistol all the time kind of way, but more so in a, hey, we're going to go under center. We're going to put big people on the field. We're going to do exactly what Slowick did in Houston. We're going to have 6- and 7-man protections. We're going to boot you out, cut the field in half. So you're going to have the alert, you're going to have the mid-level, you're going to have the short, and if all else fails, you have the wheels you can take off. And we're going to do that until you get comfortable. And then we can start calling, like instead of booting you out, now we're going to keep you in the pocket. We're still going to have flood to the field, but then we're going to have that backside dig come where you're going to rip it. Right. Ooh, yeah. And so you kind of work from a lot of what like Brian Dable did with Daniel Jones. And then eventually you get to what McVay and Robinson were doing with Stafford, where you go from half field to full field. But I think that type of system will use Jayden's mobility in a way that isn't just getting him killed for the sake of getting him killed because he can run. Like it's an option, but it's not what we're basing it off of. And so that's kind of what I would do is I would pair any of the McVay guys with Jayden. Hope to God you can get a receiver on day 2, multiple receivers on day 2, and then you build it out from there.
The NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Is there anybody else outside of that tree? Because again, I feel like Zach Robinson and then again, Nick Haley, package deals like the dream scenario. Anybody else that fans should just have on their mind as another potential candidate?
Well, Waldron just got poached by Chicago. He was up there for me as well. I know somebody's going to bring up Cliff. I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work. I don't see it, especially with the personnel they've got. I don't see that working.
How about a Dan Pitcher? I'll throw one at you. I'll pitch one at you. Dan Pitcher.
Have they brought him in?
I do not believe so, but I know he's someone. I think he's interviewed with the Raiders, I believe, and the Saints. But just it seems like somebody mentored Joe Burrow his entire career with the quarterback experience. Just throwing that one out there.
I could see. I would be really interested to see how they plan or how he would plan to handle protection.
How so?
Because in Cincinnati, it's 5-man protections all day long, right?
Right. A lot of empty and stuff like that, yeah.
And I don't know if New England can get away with that. Like when they had all 5 on the field, like it worked towards the end of the year. It worked a lot better than it did in the first half when they were just rotating. I think they probably led the league in different offensive line combinations.
I think they got up to like 10 or something like that, like starting combinations.
Yeah. It settled the back half of the year. But I'm still not 100% certain that they could get away with that. Like Cincinnati had. Plus, like, what's going on with Trent Brown? Is he even coming back?
So that's the thing. Gerard Mayo, I feel like he's a better fit. Like Trent has been posting Gerard content a lot. Like when he got hired, it was all over the place. He didn't even acknowledge Bill. Other players were like, you're excited about Mayo, but you also acknowledge Bill. There was none of that. So I really do think that the relationship, and then there was something also reported that, Bill, how he plays his mind games where like they had him come in for minicamp or something like that. And then he was like a second string. And he's like, well, why the hell am I even here if I'm second string? And he wasn't happy with the way that he was handled. And then Bill, like not telling you schedules until the last minute, which, as media, I can somewhat understand. That's kind of frustrating. But, I really do think the relationship there was frayed. But the biggest thing is I'm not sure how the locker room feels about it. If the locker room's like, hey, he was hurt, he toughed it out when he could, it was just a bad situation, and then he comes back on a modest deal and then balls out because he actually has more respect for Mayo and gets treated a little better, then I'm cool with it. But I don't know how they feel about him inside the building is the biggest problem.
Because let's just say everything's cool and he comes back. You're looking at a starting 5 of Trent, and then you got Onwenu as the other, and then you got Strange at left guard.
Probably City So at right guard, most likely.
Yeah, because I thought he played well there personally.
Yeah, no, he really got better as the season went on. Fewer mistakes, I felt like, every week.
And then what's the contract situation at center?
David Andrews, I think it's his last year on his deal, but he also might retire. I don't think he's going to, but he's still a retirement candidate. Behind him, they've got Jake Andrews. They drafted him last year. And he was okay. Like, he didn't play until literally the second to last game of the season. I guess they only thought he was a center. He came in at guard and, like, played pretty well in a few snaps the last game of the season when there was, like, the freaking blizzard. He looked a little more rough, but he didn't get a ton of playing time, like, competitively in the summer. Kind of like City, how they tried to have him at tackle the entire summer. And then he played guard, and they were like, oh, maybe that was his natural position would have been smart. Yeah. But, and then Cole also got hurt. So interior is kind of, I don't really know what's going to happen there.
The good thing is there's a lot of depth in this class. I look at like Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. Like they can pick him up early day 3 and be totally fine. There's some centers that I like in this class if they want depth there. The big thing is, again, if you're trying to get away with a bunch of 5-man protections, like what Cincy does all the time, and if you're in shotgun 97% of the time, which is what Cincy does. Again, I'm not saying that's exactly what they would do because they kind of cater it to Burrow, but like if that's kind of what they want to emulate, you can do it, but I don't think they can do it with their current weapons. They need dudes that, like, especially because everybody's going to be blitzing a young quarterback over and over and over again. If they're not protecting with 6 and 7, like Houston was doing to kind of get CJ acclimated to all the blitzes and everything he was facing. If they're trying to protect with 5, ball's got to come out quick, which means you need guys that can break tackles. And the only one they got right now is Pop Douglas. So that means if we're taking either Maye or Jayden early, like if Malachi Corley is not in New England next season, like something went horribly wrong, because like that's kind of what they have to do is accept the fact that their average depth of target is going to be 4 yards next year. We're getting Yak City. Like that's So again, all of these pieces can fit together. It's just hard.
That can is just carrying a lot of weight. And I mean, we saw it last season. Like Bill O'Brien, he's not a really big max protect guy either. I think at one point in the season, it was like they were second to last in number of times they had like more than 5 in protection. So we already saw he loves empty. A lot of the time you'll get chips, but usually they're trying to get their guys out in the route. So we already saw what last year's Patriots offensive line looked like with 5-man protection. And it's very best like when they had healthy Trent, Mike, when I think it was his first game at right tackle, then City, Cole, and David. That was the game they beat the Bills. And that was the best that they looked all season. So, but that's a lot of ifs because it's like, all right, who's going to be back? Who's not going to retire? Is Cole even going to be ready? Because I think that he hurt the same knee that he messed up in the summer. So you have no idea what the structure is going to be like there or how ready he's going to be. And then Maye, I really like the guy, but last season was rough. Like, I don't know that you can play him anytime soon, to be totally honest with you, even as a depth guy.
The big oh man, and I loved him a lot coming out, but there were like legitimate issues on tape in terms of his ability to redirect, especially against stunts.
Yes,
and
that was a huge problem.
Showed up a lot, right? He's just not quick. He's strong. Like when he gets his hands on you, he's fine.
But he doesn't use his fingers. I swear he blocks like this, where it's always sliding up. But I'm like, dude, grab him, do something. You're allowed. It's not touch. And I get so flustered because it's like you have the talent, but the number of times I saw his hand just slip and just not get any contact, it was bizarre. And I hope he gets it worked out this offseason. But
he's the classic. Honestly, he's the classic Patriots lineman that would have worked when Dante was there.
Scar. Yep.
Dante would have fixed him.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the worst thing that has happened to the Patriots, I think, in the last 10 years, other than Tom leaving, is Dante retiring the second time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He will never get the appreciation he deserves. That dynasty was built by Dante Scarnecchia.
Yep.
And it's because he made guys like Maye or Strange or CD or Nwenu, like he made those guys work for 20 years, and he's not there anymore. And so like they got to figure it out. I don't know how they're going to do it. They got to figure it out.
Yeah, as much as the offensive coordinator stuff is like exciting, and as it should be, that's the leader. I'm going to be very curious to see what they do with O-line coach. I don't think Adrian Clem's going to be back. And also, frankly, a wide receiver coach, because their development at that position has been pretty brutal under Troy Brown for the past couple of years. Patriots legend, ton of respect for him. But like I've really, even with Pop, as great as he was last season, considering the situation, the route running, outside of just his natural talent and ability to set guys up, like the route depths and things like that, it was every single week. You'd see like 2 or 3 plays where it's like, man, I don't know what they're coaching him to do, because it's just like he can't get open or it's not on time. And I don't know if that's just me, but
you know what I would do? I don't think he would take it but if I was Kraft, I would talk to whoever Brian Hartline's agent is and just say, like, what's the number? Like, I understand Ohio State.
Is he committed to Ohio State? Right. Okay. That's what I was wondering.
But it's like, yeah, they got the unfinished business. They brought like everybody back. They spent a bunch in NIL. Like they're going for it. But like, I'm sorry, we're the New England Patriots. We got more money than Ohio State. Like, what's the number? Like, bring me Brian Hartline at all costs.
Hey man, fingers crossed. That would be a sincere dream scenario.
You might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Head to factormeals.com/PressPass50 and use code PressPass50 to get 50% off. That's code PressPass50 at factormeals.com/PressPass50 to get 50% off.